Good to go? All right. Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the minor delay. We had to make sure we had everything ready to go, but now we are officially set and ready to go live. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 12 of the Table Talk Podcast. We have a great show lined up for you all today. As you can see from our guests, we got some special people in the building today. But I'm going to start off with the co-host. I like to say the Table Talk Podcast is my new line. It's the only podcast in the United States of America that has two Yemeni women co-hosts. So, Ramsey, can you first of all start us off with a round of applause for the women that are over here holding it down, which is my sisters, Sada Thab and Abid Thab. So shout out to the ladies, the co-hosts sitting here right next to me. Of course, you got myself, Umar Thab in the building. And our guests for today, we have Councilwoman Amanda Jaczkowski. She is in the building today representing Hamtramck. And as well, we have Councilman Khalil Refai is in the building as well today. And today what we're going to be talking about is basically some of the current events, current news that's happening in Hamtramck. There's a lot of information happening in the city of Hamtramck, so we kind of wanted to update you all on what's going on. And it kind of relates to some of the things that are happening in our world as well. So we're going to try to connect it a little bit. But, want to just update the community, what's going on, and making sure that everything is up to date. If you have any questions, please, this is the time to shoot them out to us. I'm here. I have YouTube right here in front of me. So if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to comment. But also feel free to subscribe to our pages. First of all, YouTube, Oz Media 313, Apple and Spotify podcasts. You can listen to our shows later under Oz Media. We're on Facebook and Instagram, Motivate Me 313. And we're back on TikTok as well. So Oz Media 313 on TikTok. Again, the number to call in. If you want to call into our show, the number is 313-306-1750. Again, the number is 313-306-1750. And now I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, BC Adhesives, the Balkan House, the Qahwa House, and Hanley International Academy. We're going to start off with Hamtramck's own, the Balkan House Restaurant. So I want to give a shout out to Juma Ekich, Hassan, and everybody over there at the Balkan House Restaurant. Great workers, great service. So go ahead, Ramsey, you want to go ahead and run that Balkan House ad for us? The Balkan House Restaurant. The Balkan House Restaurant is famous for their doner kebab sandwich. But did you know that the Balkan House now serves breakfast? Did you also know that all their food is 100% halal? The Balkan House now also have 2 food trucks, so you can book your next party or event with the Balkan House on wheels. Their Hamtramck location is 3028 Kniff Street, Hamtramck, Michigan. Their Ferndale location is 314 West 9 Mile Road, Ferndale, Michigan. Again, you can book their food trucks for your next party or event. So if you're looking for a nice place to eat, with friendly service and great prices, look no further than the Balkan House Restaurants. And I want to give a shout out to Ramsey from the Movement Podcast too, helping us out. Ramsey, you can give yourself a round of applause if you'd like, by the way. Yeah, you got to get those banks ready, I understand. But shout out to Ramsey. He's in the building as well, in the back right here, getting things ready. So shout out to my man Rambo, helping us out. But like I said, today we are here to talk with the council members from Hamtramck. Like I said, I got YouTube right here next to me. Any questions that you guys may have, feel free to shoot them out, and I'll be sure to read them. But with that said, first of all, I kind of did some slight introductions, but if you guys can introduce yourselves, I'll start off with you, Amanda. Can you tell people a little bit about yourself, what you do, maybe even outside of the public service that you do, and things like that?
Sure. So I am a Hamtramck resident. Obviously, I'm serving on city council in my first term. Khalil and I were elected together in 2021. We started in January of this year. I have an undergraduate degree from Central Michigan University, and I got my master's in public administration from Wayne State. I also work for United Way for Southeastern Michigan, so that's a large regional nonprofit. I do a lot on the agency relations side, which means that I get to spend a lot of time networking with other nonprofits. And then I'm also on the board of a really cool organization called Dream of Detroit, and I know that y'all have talked to some of the members of that recently. So that's really cool. They do a lot of work over by the Muslim Center and do like housing, economic development, and community organizing work.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of great things that they do over there. Mm-hmm. So that's awesome. That's awesome. You said you're a part of the board. You said that's great. Community servant over here is Amanda Jaczkowski. She definitely gives back to the community. You see her all around. And another person that gives back, somebody that I grew up knowing, Till this day, anybody that's named Khalil in sports, I call him Ustad Khalil. All right. So I just want to let you know, it's an honor for you, man. Just want to represent you right there. But shout out to Khalil Refai in the building. Does a lot. Want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
First of all, thank you guys for hosting us here today. I'm a council member, like my colleague have said. We ran in the same election. I've been active in the city or in the community for many years since I was a young age. Been part of a lot of organizations, YALA, the American Pact, and also one of the co-founders of the Islamic Center of Hamtramck. Alhamdulillah, I've been active, try to bring youth more, involved in politics, especially in our city of Hamtramck. Continue doing what needs to be done in the city of Hamtramck.
So my question is, how has that first year been on the council so far? Let's start off with you, Khalil.
Wallahi, alhamdulillah, it's been an opportunity for me to be as a city official and then having new faces in the city council. And that's what made me actually run, is having new faces, new ideas for the city of Hamtramck. So it's not something that I assumed it's going to be simple and easy. It's a huge tax, especially in the city of Hamtramck, where people think that by you being a council member, it's easy for you to solve stuff.
Like a snap of a finger.
Yeah, especially with with our community.
Yeah.
People think that you're able to solve issues and things that are happening in the city. Simple, they don't know it takes a while, takes chain of command, where how you're able to solve stuff.
Yeah.
But it's been a great experience, alhamdulillah. And it's I'm working tightly with my colleagues to make Hamtramck a better city and try to fix the city as much as we can with the budget and that we have as a city. As you know, Hamtramck doesn't have a lot of revenue, and their budget really goes up and down. As for a small little town, we don't have much factories or companies that are inside the city like other cities. So we try to do as much as we can with the budget that we have for the city of Hamtramck.
How about you, Amanda? How has your first year been?
I mean, it's definitely been a growing experience, I think, for all of us, including the previous, the sitting council members as well. I think that we've all been interacting in very different ways and making sure that we understand how each other works. And so we're all individually working on communication with each other in different ways. And I want to build off what Khalil was saying a little bit. And a lot of people do expect us to be able to snap our fingers and fix something. But another one of those things that I feel like a lot of people don't understand about the way that the city works is that Khalil and I can't go into, say, the treasurer's office and fix your problem for you.
No way.
It's not allowed by the charter.
I just want to, because I feel like a lot of people.
Right. So there are council members, like Councilman El Samiri is really good about going in and helping people with translation so that they can understand, but he's not allowed to give any direction to that treasurer. So I will use the treasurer as an example, but it's any city employee. The only way that we're allowed to communicate with them is in council meetings as the whole council and through the city manager. And this is in the charter. So if you call me up and you're like, hey, can you go fix this problem for me with the treasurer? I can't do that. I can do things as the council, as a group, and we can work on addressing policy changes and things like that. If there's consistent, persistent issues, we can fix those, but we can't go after each and every individual one by the charter.
And I'm sure there's people I sound a little funny.
No.
People that just get a ticket, and they're probably coming up to you guys and can you fix this? And it's you can't do nothing with a why can't I think?
The court.
That's what I'm
we
saying.
have no jurisdiction over the court system whatsoever. Just like we don't actually have any jurisdiction over the school board either. The school board is a completely separate elected body.
That's important to mention that, because I feel like people do get those things confused, and I smile because I know Khalil works with the police department as well, so I'm sure. Yeah, okay, used to? Okay. But I'm sure you probably still get your fair share of, hey, can you help me out here with this situation?
It's actually more when I became city council. Now it's not just the tickets. Now it's almost everything that has to deal with the city.
My street got a bump on it.
Yeah, bump, or it could be, hey, my street it's not repaired, or my sidewalk, or the tree. So it's more now, more calls, more issues.
Yeah.
So it's not just traffic.
But it's important to say, definitely tell us what those issues are.
Yeah.
We have to know what those issues are in order to be able to say, oh, this is a persistent problem. There's a lot of people having trouble with their alley. Like, this alley is completely inaccessible. It needs to move up the priority list and stuff like that. We need that information. So definitely let us know. Just know that we also can't individually do anything about it.
Yeah.
And it'll take time.
Right.
Patience.
Long time.
Yeah. Patience.
For sure. But you know what? I just do want to say this, and Ramsey, we're definitely going to have to get the round of applause ready for this because you guys did make history. I mean, I think the history was made maybe prior, but still keeping that history, and that is the first all-Muslim council. So, Ramsey, you want to give that a round of applause because that definitely deserves a round of applause. I'm going to be honest with you. I mean, I know, obviously, I don't want to focus too much on it, but as a Muslim, it does make me proud. It does make me proud to see that there's people representing in the community because we had a conversation about proper representation, and, you know, the city's starting to become a lot majority more Muslim.
Well, actually, I have something I was thinking about saying before that, and that's a perfect tee up for that. So one of the things that I think is important for people to understand about representation is what does that mean, right?
Yeah.
So representation doesn't mean that now, okay, so we do have an all-Muslim city council, but that doesn't mean that we're going to legislate things based on Islam,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
We can bring like values and stuff like that. Like one of the things, like one of my biggest, I love the word integrity, right? So that verbiage of integrity and just understanding the Islamic principle and focus on integrity and honesty and all of that stuff, that's really important for me. And that's what I bring to city council, right? I don't necessarily bring my religion to city council. And that's where representation is important because we can remember things like, oh, we probably should have free parking on Eid too, but it's not just on Eid,
Yeah.
right? And so there's that balance there with representation because we still have everyone else as well.
Yeah, for
'cause
sure.
I can definitely see how being a Muslim, well, all Muslim council can make people feel very uncomfortable as well. So for you to clear that out, like, listen, just because we are Muslim doesn't mean that, you know, we're doing Sharia law.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, you know, we present the entire community. So it's
Yeah.
not just the Yemen community or the Muslim community or the
Yeah.
Bengali community. We're there for everybody. So whoever lives in the city, even though you might not voted for me, but at least we present the entire city.
Yes.
And we want, you know, our viewers to know that you know, just you don't have to be a Yemeni for you to call me up and say, hey, listen, I have an issue, you know, in our city. So we present the entire city.
You guys want the best for everyone.
For the entire city, yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
No, for sure, and you know, you guys doing a great job of that as well, and I'm sure that's conversations that you guys also have behind the closed doors as well. But so you know, we're here to talk about the city of Hamtramck, right, and the current state of the city of Hamtramck. So, can you update us on so far, like how's things going? How's the city going? I guess I think you just started the last one, so Amanda, I'll let you start this one. So how's everything going so far with the city and you know, we're going to get into detail about a couple topics, but overall, the overall scope of things.
Yeah, I mean, there's always good and bad, right? So there's motion in a lot of good ways. Like we have a lot of like the Arts and Culture Commission did a lot of really cool projects this summer, and those are all officially part of the city of Hamtramck, right? We had 2 new murals unveiled this year. So we have all of this stuff that's happening on a positive way. We have the Joe Louis Greenway going in. We have Veterans Park getting bathrooms and all of this stuff. We got federal grants to be able to put bathrooms in Veterans Park. So we have a lot of these positive things, but we also have a lot of tension points because that's what happens when you have people in as diverse of a community and as condensed of a community, and just it happens. We're gonna have tension points, and then like Khalil was saying earlier, is we have those major budget issues. It's our biggest restraint on doing anything in the city is that budget.
And to add to my colleague, Councilwoman, we have to understand that, you know, even though Hamtramck, it's a small little town, but most of these things are happening with the alleys. You know, there's so much alleys now are being repaired, and that they haven't never been touched for many years. But most of these things are happening is actually by grants. It's not like our budget's real good. So anything that you guys see that's happening in the city of Hamtramck, it's because of a lot of work from our CFO or accounting, our city manager that been reaching out to get these grants. So most of these things are happening. It's actually from grants. So it's not like our budget is doing well. So, and we need to let our viewers know that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of stuff is what you guys see in Hamtramck. It's through grants. It's not.
Yeah, because they're probably like thinking like, oh, why are they spending the money on art instead of doing this? And when that is separate and given through a grant instead of.
Correct.
So yeah.
And each grant is for something else. So
Yeah.
you know,
Specific.
Specific. So
Yeah.
if you get a grant for sidewalks. You can't, even though
Use that for
for
something.
something else. And a lot of people say, well, you fixing alleys, but there's main streets that needs to be repaired.
And
But-
isn't it like if you don't? I'm sorry for cutting
No,
you off.
sounds good.
Isn't it if like you don't even if you like you did have say a $5,000 left for the sidewalk grant, you have to give it back to them, right?
If you
Is
don't
that what
use
it
it
is?
for that,
Yeah.
thing that was was granted for, you got to return it back.
Sometimes with granting agents, you can get flexibility or extensions and stuff like that, or even permission to shift money into something else. But that's not something that's controlled on our end, right? That's something that has to be permitted.
Still
of
another
us.
process to
Correct.
go through.
And I forgot to say this in the beginning of the show. We are here to educate and teach people about what it is like to actually be a council member. That's one thing that I wanted to say that is going to be a big takeaway of today, that even me, I'm going to learn a couple things, to be honest with you. So I hope you guys are taking this in, and if you're not watching this live, watching it later, that this is information that's needed, and then you pass it on, because this is factual.
It is.
There's too much false news, fake news going out around the world now that with the internet and stuff. So we actually have 2 council members here, and this is factual for not just Hamtramck, this is for all council members as well. So we're here, and they're here to tell you these kind of things, and I hope that you hopefully learn something from the information that's being shared as well. And the one thing I want to say, I know it doesn't deal with maybe the Arts Commission, but shout out to Razan with the artistry that she did. The picture that she drew, yes, I went Saturday, but obviously she did this way before. But she had both of you on there. I seen both of your faces on there too. So Ramsey, I know you back there. Can you give another round of applause? Ramsey's on the round of applause right now. But definitely, she was on the show, by the way. You had her on the show as well. So shout out to Razan, representing Hamtramck really well. I think she did an awesome job.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, all the
So
different
cute.
faces, all the representation as well. So she did a great job reaching out to different people in the city, leaders, and just random citizens, business owners.
Very diverse
Yeah.
representation on that, and I think it's really amazing to see Hamtramck like in a snapshot like that. So
Yeah,
I'm very impressed.
And it's still on there, so
Yeah.
everybody can go there and visit. It's 9414
yeah.
Joseph Campo. It's still,
What is that building? Is it a, just an empty building?
It's a vacant building right now. The person who is going to renovate it eventually is working on other buildings right now.
Oh, okay.
And so it will get to being renovated eventually once those ones are completed, but that was there to help beautify it until then.
Yeah,
So we appreciate that too.
for sure.
Definitely.
By the way, Hamtramck, one thing that we're starting to see as well. Well, first of all, just off the housing market can tell you that it's on the rise, I believe, and so businesses trying to come in to Hamtramck. That's a big, great, big important thing that's gonna be happening soon. Like for instance, coffee places. There's rumors that there's a lot of coffee places trying to come into Hamtramck or will be coming to Hamtramck. You got juice places now. Any other businesses that maybe, I don't know if it's too early to break the news?
not new businesses, but there's more residents are building brand new houses
Yeah.
in our city. So as we speak, we have 10 residents who bought lots, are building brand new houses. And that
Nice.
will, kind of bring property revenue for the city of Hamtramck.
For sure.
Some of those houses also will be multi-unit houses, so there could be 2 or more families in them.
Beautiful.
And let me ask this question right quick. This is just me thinking. So if someone wanted to start a business in the city, how will they go through that process? Where do you guys come in that process?
Well, the only time council gets involved, that's when they come to a point where they want to change something with the building,
Okay.
and then that has to get approved by the city council.
Okay.
But it's usually a longer process, and that's only if someone really wants to make
And
a
that's a-
huge change at a building or
Right, so we're on like the zoning and ordinances side, right? So it's just like you said, just if that's happening, but if someone wants to open a business, they can go into City Hall or on the website. There's actually business guides in multiple languages on the website. I think it's 3 languages.
It is.
And
Arabic,
so it's
Bangla,
Arabic,
English.
Bangla, and English. And there's a business resource guide and it will help guide on that. Something that we have requested at a few different times is like one big fee sheet and stuff like that,
Checklist.
and just like a checklist, stuff like that. So those are the type of things that we ask for, and we might ask a bunch of times, but it might take, we don't have the funding for it right now, or no one has the capacity inside, because we're short on employees at City Hall right now. If you don't know, we are hiring a city manager, a CFO, a Department of Public Works director, right? We have a lot of other positions posted as well. So if you know anyone who might be interested in working for the city, we would be glad to know.
And how can somebody apply?
So they can go if you like Google Hamtramck job postings, it'll pull you to the HR page, and there's the HR contact email and phone number.
Nice. All right. Well, we already got a question, and it's about the bike lanes. All right. So they want to get right into it. So we're gonna get into it. I'll read off the question afterwards. So let's first of all give somebody a kind of brief understanding of it, and maybe Amanda, you could help us out with that. So there's the Joe Louis Greenway, right? If I'm correct. And it was a contract that was not just in Hamtramck. It goes through Detroit and any other city as well?
Highland Park, and it touches into Dearborn.
There you go. So it touches into Dearborn, Highland Park, Hamtramck, and Detroit. It was a big project. And is it finished yet, or
Nope,
is it still
and
going
it won't
on?
be for a long time.
Okay. So, but people can start using those lanes. So can you tell us a little bit about it, and then see
Sure.
where we're at right now in Hamtramck with it?
So the Joe Louis Greenway is a gigantic undertaking, and it's going to end up being a 30-mile loop of a greenway. And a greenway is a protected area, or semi-protected. It's it's a designated area that you can walk, ride bicycles, rollerblades, skateboard, those type of things, any non-motorized mode of transportation. And so you can do those things on the greenway. Most of it is being put as much as they can. They're putting it over like old railroad tracks and stuff like that to make better use of the land, clean it up for residents. Like there was one that opened in Southwest, a portion of it opened in Southwest a few weeks ago, and it looks beautiful. And it's on top of old railroad tracks. So they're trying to repurpose some of these old transportation lines to make sure that we're connecting it. So it's going to connect, people know the DeQuinder Cut, so it's going to connect the DeQuinder Cut down through Hamtramck, go around through Highland Park, down by Dearborn, and back down through the riverfront.
Wow.
So it's going to be an absolutely gorgeous thing. And with that comes bike lanes, which is the actual question, right?
Yeah.
So the bike lanes that are there, definitely you can ride in them. Please do not park in them. You can ride in them. There will be more coming. Hamtramck's phases are scheduled to be ended in 2026, dependent on funding. So if there's enough funding, that date can move up. So it can come quicker the more funding there is. Again, this is a project heavily reliant on grants. But so the alley portion that we keep talking about and then north of Kniff, that's all going to be finished with protected bike lanes. But it's going to be in 2026.
Yeah.
Right.
So my first question is, no one can drive in those lanes, correct?
Or park.
Or park. What is the consequence if you get caught driving in that lane or caught parking in that lane?
A ticket.
And how hefty of a ticket that is? Is it
I think
normal?
it depends.
Okay.
It's a normal ticket, but sometimes they add other ones on and stuff like that, and so it kind of depends on exactly what you did and what they saw you do.
Yeah.
Where is it located?
So
I've seen.
You ain't seen on Joseph Campo?
No.
What by Hanley?
Well, if you guys heard of the DeQuinder Cut,
Yeah.
that starts from Riverfront.
Yeah.
So it's a bigger program. It's not something simple. Where they're starting from DeQuinder Cut from downtown Riverfront, where we'll continue to Hamtramck Drive, from Hamtramck Drive to Joseph Campo, and then it will reach to Highland Park. And
Is
then
that why they redid Hamtramck Drive?
well, that's our side.
Part of it.
They're doing Detroit side, and they're
Okay.
doing that soon. So you'll see Hamtramck Drive will be all brand new. Hopefully.
Yeah, I did
next year.
notice there was. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and
And
so
that Hamtramck Drive was actually a grant.
Yeah.
It wasn't from the city's budget, but
I'm sorry.
thanks God that we got that big grant, because that road was really
Yeah, it was bad.
it was bad.
Very bad.
I've
I didn't
ridden my-
recognize what it was. My uncle, he took a picture. He's like, "Who knows where this is?" And it was like fixed. And I'm like, "I don't know." We're all like, "Where is it?" Where? And then
Because everybody was
Yeah.
surprised. A lot of mechanics used to use that to actually test cars. My brother was a mechanic, and he was like, "Now you guys, when you guys fixed it, now we can even test the vehicles, shocks and stuff." But the bike lanes in Hamtramck, it's a big program, where it will start, like I said, Riverfront to Hamtramck, and then from Highland Park to Dearborn, and then goes back to downtown Detroit. So it's a big project that's like my colleagues have said, it's grants. It's either from state grants or other organizations.
And there has been parts of Hamtramck that has already gotten, because I know there was like in Joseph Campo, there's a couple areas
right.
there.
And so up
I
through
remember.
Holbrook now has bike lanes. So south, like Joseph Campos south of Holbrook now has bike lanes.
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of people were a little bit confused on how to use them, and that's fine. There's still going to be more like the ballards, the
Yeah.
plastic poles will be put up at some point. I don't think they're there yet. They weren't
not
last
yet.
time I went past. And then all that green paint is that's symbolic of where bicycles and cars will cross paths.
Mm.
So anywhere there's green, you need to be looking and checking, and that's going to help you not hit a cyclist on accident, because it's important to remember that that bicycle lane is a legal lane of traffic. So like if you're trying to turn into the shopping center and a bicyclist is going through, you have to wait till they clear and then you can turn. The cars have to yield to the bicycles
Very important. I was about to say, so bicyclists have the right first
in the bike lane.
in the bike lane. I'm going to talk about a story of a bicyclist.
Huh, okay.
All right. Before we do that, I want a question, right? So we're trying to get people to ask questions, so shoot them away, please. Feel free. I promise you we'll get to all of them. In regards to the bike lanes, will Joseph Campo on the Yemeni majority side be fixed by council so that the parking is back on both sides and the bike lanes are outwards like the rest of Joseph Campo?
The long story short is no, because there's not enough space to do the same design on the that they're doing on the north of Kniff side. There's not enough space on the road to do that. But one of the really cool things about bike lanes is that study after study nationwide and outside the United States too, like there's in Europe, there's in Scandinavia, there's Canada, they've done studies too, is every single study that I've seen says that there's either a neutral or increase in business, even with a reduction in parking. And so the parking really shouldn't be our primary concern. We should be looking at the positive side of it, that it's actually, statistics show it's going to increase business for everyone along that bike route.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that. Like, people are going to be coming, like you said, this is Detroit, Hamtramck, Dearborn, Highland Park, so if they want to take that whole route, and, in one day they're going to be going through all that, and then, of course, with a bunch of restaurants in that area and businesses, people are going to say, hey, let's stop by right quick and get ourselves a bite to eat, and, stuff like that. So, I mean, I can see the benefits of it.
And then also let's throw that out to our Hamtramck residents, that this plan was not in our time. It's actually, in our council members and mayor previously before us, where they passed this resolution to work with this program, and that was in 2018.
Right, and that's what we don't necessarily have, we have the power now, but think about how we just said it's not even scheduled to be finished till 2026.
Yeah.
Right. So how can we change the plans midway? These are plans that have been in progress already for 4 years and still aren't going to be finished for another 4 years, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot of complex moving pieces, because a lot of this is Detroit, City of Detroit, City of Dearborn, City of Highland Park, Wayne County. The Detroit Greenways Coalition has their hand in it in some way, shape, or form and getting the ball rolling. You have the Joe Louis Greenway team, right? So that we have so many people involved that it was difficult to even get it to the point of implementation. Then to go back and modify it after it's already in progress, that's a pretty hefty feat for part-time, right? Very, very part-time council members.
And like you said, there's so many levels that has to get the approval of any kind of change.
Right. So it's not just us.
Yeah.
But it should have been discussed in that time, in 2018. Maybe they could have found ways.
There was public input surveys and everything. They went through and talked to the DDA. They talked to all the businesses. So the businesses had opportunities to give input. It was a long time ago, though. So it's very possible that people missed a flyer somewhere, missed a survey, something like that. But they did do outreach, which is important. They're still doing outreach to businesses. They have a link on the Hamtramck website. They have a link on their website where they're doing surveys of the businesses that touch the Greenway. And so they definitely want that input still. So if people are having concerns, reach out to the Greenways team.
I feel like this episode is about to be one of those episodes where students are going to have to go back and take notes and, you know what I'm saying, learn from the city.
I mean, but there's so much positive from it too, like less pollution from the cars, and but also introducing a whole new set of people to the community, and just kind of pushing the walking and the biking and the
a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah,
a healthy lifestyle.
activity.
You're gonna see people walking and
And
driving
you
by.
can see people maybe riding their bicycles into Hamtramck instead of driving their cars. So there could be alleviation of some of our parking issues, right? So there's a lot of different ways that this can benefit the community. But it is going to be a big change.
I'm gonna be honest with you. You see bike lanes, you'd be like, oh man, this community is like thriving right now. I don't try.
Yeah.
They're young,
Anywhere-
they're hip, they're healthy.
Yeah.
So when you see those bike lanes, it changes your perspective on things. But not all stories are always great when riding a bike. All
Yep.
right. So I know you had your incident of a bike situation. So I'm gonna let you tell the story, because it's important to know about the safety of it and obviously the dangers of being aware of bicyclists out there, cyclists out there. So
Yeah. So I'll keep it pretty short. If you ever want to have a conversation about it and talk about the long and dramatic side of it, that totally down for it. Doesn't bother me. But long story short is, in 2017, I was riding my bike to work and I got run over by a gravel truck. It was one of the double trailer. Oh, we didn't prep you. I'm sorry.
yeah.
She got the heads up.
Yeah.
Right now.
A gravel truck?
It was the double trailer gravel truck. It was on its way to the work site, so it was fully loaded, everything, and I went under 4 of the wheels. And I was in a bike lane, but I was going through an intersection, and the truck turned right.
So one of those
Right.
that you were going.
And so this is not a road. This is actually a road that they were updating, and there might even be better lanes there now, but there wasn't any of the green paint. There wasn't any of that stuff. But essentially, the guy didn't see me, right? And so I have no understanding that it was intentional by any means, and I just want to clarify that. Some people asked that in the beginning because they obviously are visibly Muslim and stuff like that. But at the same time, it was a right turn, and it's the infamous right hook. It's known as the right hook in the cycling community. But so since then, I've had 85. I was in the hospital for 85 days. I've had around 29 surgeries. I have skin grafts. I have, I apologize.
Oh my God,
I
mother
would
crying.
have prepped them first. So I have a lot of that kind of stuff. Like I broke my neck. That's why I can't play soccer anymore. But I am back on a bicycle and I do ride. I do wear a helmet now. But helmets are important. They protect your head. And so there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's really important. But in those 5 years since that is when I've paid a lot more attention. And I'll even catch myself. I'll turn. I'll be like, did I check for bicycles? Right? And so it's one of those things that every once in a while I challenge myself. And I'm like, I'm going to drive like I'm in driver's ed for 2 weeks. And try and reset my driving habits and stop being so fast. Stop being so autopilot. Right? Because when you wake up and you're like, how did I get home? Right?
Yeah.
I don't remember getting home, and that's where it's the most dangerous for pedestrians and cyclists and motorcyclists.
Because people are so focused on cars that they, maybe even people walking, and then the bike comes out of nowhere.
Right, and
so-
you just don't see it.
Yeah. No, for sure. And thank you for sharing that, because obviously that's a story that some people might not want to share. So I appreciate you for sharing that information. And it's
I
important.
have more questions.
Go ahead. You got any more questions?
It's okay.
Yeah, we'll talk
if it's
Okay.
relevant, but
Yeah.
No, it's about you.
we'll talk
I mean,
after.
it is relevant, but
So this is a good time to take a pause right quick and get Hanley International Academy, another school in the city of Hamtramck. Shout out to Hanley. I work there. My sister works there as well. So we want to give a shout out to the school that even Ramsey attends and has a big game tomorrow. Tomorrow against another school within the area, which is Oakland International Academy. So shout out to Hanley. Go ahead, Ramsey. Go ahead and run the ad. Hanley International Academy. Hanley is a school that treats every student and staff like their own family. It's even in their vision statement, educating your child like our own. Did you also know that Hanley offers a virtual academy? So if you're looking for your kid to sign up for an online school, look no further than Hanley's virtual academy. But if you're looking for face-to-face, Hanley International Academy is located on 2400 Denton Street, Hamtramck, Michigan. The athletics there are great. The academics there are great. Shout out to the whole staff for being great teachers and educators for our leaders of tomorrow. So, go ahead, by the way. Just want to throw this out there. First of all, thank you, both of you, for being here today. I appreciate it. So now we're going to kind of jump into a couple other topics. But before I do that, I had to take an important call right quick. He's going to be right back. Let's have a conversation with Amanda before we jump into because the next topic is about the animal sacrifice and stuff like that. And so obviously we want to make sure that both council members are here today or here right now when we discuss that. Amanda, can you tell us a little bit more about some of the work that you do and how does it feel, by the way? I guess let's start off with this. When I seen you running to become a council member, I thought you were one of the perfect candidates because one, you're a Muslim and then you're a Polish too, which is obviously Hamtramck, Polish town. Now it's starting to change a little bit, but it's well known to be a Polish town. I think the word Hamtramck is Polish as well, correct? Oh, it's not?
No.
It is not.
Okay. I thought it was. But, so how does it feel, to be representing kind of majority of the city in a way?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that when I was let me backtrack a little bit. So one of the things that I think people always want to know is where did I come from? Where did you come from? So my dad's family is from the Detroit side of Poletown, right?
Okay.
So they came to the U.S. and they came to the Detroit side of Poletown. For any Polish people watching, it's St. Hyacinth. They're a St. Hyacinth family. And so, similar to how a lot of Muslims identify by mosques, the Polish people identified by churches, like the neighborhoods and stuff like that. So we were St. Hyacinth's family. By the time I was a kid, my grandparents had moved into Hamtramck, but they passed away when I was very young. And so I was raised predominantly in the suburbs, but after college, I was like, well, okay, I'm a Polish-American Muslim. Like, where would it make sense for me to be? So Hamtramck seemed like one of the only logical options for me to, like, really fit in as my home, right? And so I never thought about running for council. Never dreamed about it in my life. I usually do behind the scenes, like organizing work. I like to do strategy. I like to do those type of things. Administration. Like, I got my master's in public administration, right? Not in public policy or something that's forward facing. And so it was a really interesting shift in mindset when I was like, oh, I think I'm actually going to run this campaign, and let me see if I can represent everyone. And I've told people over and over again, it's really cool to be part of the first all-Muslim city council. It's really cool, like, working with different people that I grew up with, because I didn't grow up Muslim, right? And so even when I'm in Muslim spaces, I'm always learning things new. And I have to continue to identify, like, what's religion and what's culture and this, that, the other, and, like, figuring out those paths. And being on council, in a weird way, lets me, like, let my nerd side out a little bit, because I am, like, hyper nerdy. So anything I can research, anything I can continue to learn more about, I always do, and try and then incorporate it into how I'm making decisions or how I'm phrasing what I'm saying during the council meetings and things like that. Like, all of that draws out of conversations I have with people in the community, books I read, scholars I talk to, stuff like that.
You're the only female, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the way, very well organized, by the way. Always got everything ready to go, so definitely kudos to that. So now comes the part two, is another topic that's kind of hot in the city of Hamtramck, is the animal sacrifices. And, I'm going to let you guys explain, like, what was the issue, and I guess explain maybe both sides, and then explain where we're at. We don't have to get into detail about less than that, like, because we're not here for that. We just kind of want to educate people and let them know where it's at, and, maybe if there is a change, what can happen and stuff like that. So maybe, Khalil, I'm going to let you, like, can you explain to people, like, what happened, what's going on, and then where we're at right now, if that's okay.
Well, one thing we want to let our Hamtramck residents know that, this ordinance, it's not like, we chose that, the ordinance to work on. It's actually because of things are, old on that city ordinance. So when that ordinance came, to our subcommittee, that's, Amanda and Sumairi and I, when city manager brought that, up to us, it's because there's issues and there's stuff that has occurred previously where this law could be old or it needs to be cleared.
I think one clarification first is that the subcommittee was established to review all of Hamtramck's ordinances, all of them.
Yeah.
And a
And then
few
just
of
the
them were
animal.
pulled to the front out of order because they were ones with active issues, which is what he's explaining.
Yeah.
Even, and previously our council members before us, they have worked on some of the city ordinances before us. So, but, sadly that the animal one was in our time. So, people had issues with, people are feeding the cats. People drive around the city of Hamtramck, might come behind your house and feed the cat, leave the cans and leave. And then a code enforcement will come, check up around the neighborhood and then find all these cans behind your house that you never put them. It was actually somebody else, previously, and now you're gonna get the ticket. So we were trying to fix those issues where, to make sure who's responsible for putting these cans or these trash. And again, with the animal, some people in our city do slaughter animals without anybody knowing. And there's sometimes someone will get a ticket if someone calls on this individual that did slaughter an animal in the either in the backyard or basement. Well, they're gonna get a ticket, but that ticket will be a big fine, up to $700 in jail time.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes it could be you get sometimes females having these houses under their names, but the husband will form that slaughter. But guess who's gonna get a ticket? That female.
Mm-hmm.
So we were thinking about it, how to solve it, how to to make the penalty less harsh on the residents. It doesn't matter if they slaughter or feed the cats. So it took us around 6 months as a subcommittee, and to let our viewers know that becoming a city council it's not just 2 meetings a month. So you got subcommittees, you got other meetings. So it takes a lot of time of somebody's time in their day life of being a city council, being at these meetings, events, subcommittees.
We've talked
meet
about it. We think we average around 10 to 20 hours a week, depending on.
as a subcommittee.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of work to it. But as we started coming to a conclusion, we changed. What was it 20, 30 pages?
I think it was around 17 pages, and now it's like 7.
It was a lot.
A lot.
So and now it's less pages where a lot of them didn't make sense or they were
Like
repeated.
clarified.
Yeah, clarified, or they were repeated multiple times.
So like we had things that were like to cats and dogs and stuff strewn throughout the whole thing. So one of the things we did was we pulled everything out and we said, what is this even trying to say? And we just totally reorganized it. So it's not even like it was an amended ordinance. It was a completely newly written, more concise and more clear ordinance is what we were going for. And then people had issue with the line that established very distinctly no animal slaughter in the city, right? One of the things that we did was we had chose not to address it towards any religion or anything like that, because our understanding of what was legal is that it has to broadly apply to everyone. And this is there's a court case that went up to the Supreme Court all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court out of Florida, and that's exactly what the ruling said. Is it said this ordinance that you wrote was too particular, that it was to singling out a single religion, and that therefore it's not legal. But if it would have been more broad, then it would be legal. And so this was one of the court cases that people were bringing to us saying what you're doing is illegal. But I'm like, no. If you actually read it, it's telling you what we're doing is the legal route, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Even though that case, it's and that's why it went to Supreme Court, because council members knew that center is opening in their city, so they went and passed ordinance to ban that. Specific just to that group that are opening that, type of house of worship. Mm-hmm. So where in Hamtramck is different. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows, I couldn't say maybe the majority are Muslims in the city. Mm-hmm. So, it's not like we chose because Muslims are moving in. Muslims been in the city of Hamtramck.
Right.
Yeah.
But people took it in a different way that, we're trying to ban, the Muslim practice of slaughtering animals, where, we did not state anywhere in the city ordinance that you're not allowed to slaughter.
I have to say, one of the first things, when I told my dad, this is back in June when we were first bringing this up, I told my dad, this is what we're doing. And he's like, I hope you don't have to talk to the babshas, so the Polish grandmas. So his first concern was the Polish grandmas. That was what came to his mind immediately, right? So this wasn't anything targeted at any group. We just said this is something that many people in Hamtramck do for various reasons, and that's one of the reasons we didn't say religious slaughter. We didn't say anything. We just said don't slaughter animals except at commercially licensed facilities. Right. And
do we have those in Hamtramck?
There is one in Hamtramck. I do one in Buffalo, and that's why we were referring to the people that.
Oh yeah.
It's next to a bridge.
Yeah.
So we're not banning you from practicing your religious rights. You still could do it, but you could do it in a facility that's away from home, away from individuals that might see you slaughtering an animal in the backyard. So there's places that you could do it. So going back to
where we're at now, I think is a good place to go, because I think it represents the other side.
So even though we took heat from certain people in the community thinking that we're trying to ban slaughter in whole, they can't practice it, and that was false. We were trying to implement it that don't do it in a way where it might maybe you get your neighbors complaining, hey, why they slaughtering in the backyard. There has to be ways and plans of how to do it, and that's why we spoke to some of our colleagues who really were fighting for it, come with a plan on how to perform this, and we will come to compromise and make it happen.
And so we didn't really see a plan that we liked when the vote came, which is how we voted. But I think it's important to note that now there is a draft of a plan, and that we're going to be discussing that over the next few months, looking for that compromise point.
And and this is a message to the entire city of Hamtramck. We're members that present the entire community, and that's one thing we have to remember, that if individuals do pass a message, the wrong message to the community, reach out to us and call us up, talk to us, come to council meeting and say, listen, is it true? What's happening? Are you guys really trying to ban from Muslims slaughtering during the holidays? And that's false. And sadly, there's people out there that send the wrong message, where they thought we're trying to stop everybody's, practicing their religious rights. We're Muslims, you know, even though I do, practice it, but I do it somewhere else where it's allowed, like a slaughterhouse or somewhere. So to Hamtramck residents, please always, call us up. We live in Hamtramck, so we're not that far. Call us up.
I have had
On
people stop me
Facebook.
while I'm gardening in my front yard and ask me questions and whatnot. It's fine.
And that's okay, right? I mean, that's okay,
and
you know?
that's fine. Anywhere you can see us. You can see us at a wedding. You can see us at the street, at market. Stop us and they say, listen, this is what's going on. Is it true? Is it you guys are doing this?
But if it's more than 30 seconds, just please be gracious if we need a run. But
Yeah. No,
but
for
definitely
sure.
feel free to stop us and email us. I read every single email I get, and I respond to most of them if I haven't seen anyone else has responded. So it's one of those things that even if it's not something I can take care of, I make sure that it's put in the hands of the right person and stuff like that. So if you're having those issues, call us, email us, stop us on the street, that's fine. But also realize that maybe I have a full-time job, right? And I have a family, and I have, right? So we have all of these things that we're trying to fit in when there's really not that much time. Because if you want us to be, it goes back to that fixing individual things. If you want us to have our part-time work be towards pushing the city forward, then fixing individual issues is not an effective use of our time, right? And so just understanding that balance. And if we tell you no, this is a boundary, either a personal boundary or a legal boundary, like in the charter, then understand that and don't argue with us on that one. Because if it's in the charter or it's a personal boundary, if I can't go to your wedding, I'm sorry, because I have to go see my niece and nephew, and I haven't seen them in a couple weeks, right? So there's those type of things that we have to balance that can get really frustrating. And that's why I want to just make it clear that we want you to contact us. We want you to stop us. But sometimes don't get frustrated if we don't have time that exact minute.
Yeah.
Right?
No, for sure. And I just wanted to say that I also seen the mayor at Razan's art thing, and he mentioned the situation as well, and just wanted to throw it out there that hopefully there will be some kind of resolution, and that you guys are both going to be sitting down, people that want some kind of resolution, and then the council members as well. But he also mentioned that these are kind of things we want to move on from it because there's big issues in the city that you guys want to attack, but I'm not saying that this is not important, but I'm just saying that it's one of those things where you want to find a resolution so that you guys can start getting to other things as well.
And that's why we were trying to, come to a compromise. And that's why we were when they brought it to last council meeting, where we were promised that there's a plan. And then finding out there was actually no plan. It was a couple words added to the resolution. And that's why we voted the way we voted. But again, now we are coming to a compromise where now individuals have a plan on how to perform slaughter in our city.
And reasonable parameters to make sure that if one neighbor is doing it, that it's not affecting the neighbors on the side. Because in reality, our lots are 30 feet wide, right?
Yeah.
So we're really, really close to our neighbors. So if someone is doing it too close to the fence, or someone's doing this, that, the other, we've had no parameters on it prior. And so we really just wanted to put up some guardrails so that we can ensure that everyone has it. Because that's something that I feel a lot of times in discussion, especially in the Muslim community, we focus on our rights, right? And this is a lot of different conversations. We're this is my right to do this. But what about your responsibilities, right? Because there's always that balance. It goes back to there's balance. You have rights and responsibilities. You have rights and responsibilities. You have rights and all of us do. And I owe you all stuff. I owe you your responsibilities, right? And that's how communities work, is that it's not just about what I have the right to do. It's also about what my responsibility is to my neighbors, to my classmates, so on and so forth.
Great discussion. And again, we got a question right quick, so hopefully we can maybe answer this one. So be ready for this one. So are both council members in attendance today totally against any type of slaughtering in private property, or will they work with other council members, keyword together, to come up with a plan to allow it with certain conditions? For example, only basements, only proper disposal. I believe you guys kind of already answered that question.
Yeah, I mean, the long story short is we've actually been saying since June that we were willing to compromise on this. This entire period that this has been on discussion, we've been willing to compromise. I'm not going to say the same for El Samiri because I think he is still a no, but I don't want to speak for him.
He's willing to
but he's
compromise.
always willing to compromise if we come with reasonable discussion, right? So one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, again, is that compromise isn't necessarily that everyone's happy, right? It's that everyone is okay enough with the situation,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, I don't think that it should be allowed on private property in Hamtramck, because say you're a renter and you're renting from a landlord that doesn't allow you to have cats and dogs in your house. Do you really think that they're going to allow you to slaughter an animal in your house, that you'll even have the animal in your house in the first place, right?
That's true.
And so these are things that we have to consider even as Muslims, just to make sure that we're keeping our intentions pure and our actions pure. Because if we're breaking one rule, if we're sinning, if we're doing things, and we don't get barakah from our efforts, right?
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we're lining all the things up, that they're legal, that they're true, that our intention is right? We have to have all of those things in order. And some of that is, on the back end, the sanitation portion of it, right? Because Islam really puts sanitation really high, right? And so that's where we can do that, but we can't like put Islamic principles. Like, we can't say you have to do all of it according to Islamic. Like, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with a set of parameters that works for all residents of Hamtramck. And so we've been wanting to do that, and we saw like initial drafts of the compromise, and I think I'm very positive on it.
Same
You're very
here.
positive.
And-
So I think in the next few months we should have something.
And our issue was mostly about sanitation, keeping it clean in the way of doing it.
Even like for some neighbors, not everybody follows the same, religious rulings as they don't want to hear an animal dying, or they don't want their kids seeing that, or they don't want blood like rolling down to their backyard. There's a lot that goes with that, and there's other places to do it. It's not like we're just saying no everywhere.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So you do have to, and as Muslims, we have to also be mindful of our neighbors.
Well, that's what one
You know,
of
so
my
it's
friends
like-
that I was talking to
I
about
don't
it is a Muslim mother of 3, and she was like, I wouldn't want anyone to do that by me, because
Absolutely.
I want my children to be able to be exposed to this in a controlled way, so that I can make them realize the beauty in this practice and like the
Yeah.
religious ideas of this practice.
And not be
Whereas if they
traumatized.
don't have that they have to have the context, or they will be traumatized, right? It's not that the act in and of itself can cause trauma. Well, it can, but like if you have it contextualized for children, then they can understand it. But all of the kids in Hamtramck don't get that context, and all of the kids in the Hamtramck aren't ready for that context.
Yeah.
And so parents have to be able to have that ability to control what their kids are consuming. And there's a lot of ways that people have slaughtered animals in the past in Hamtramck that did not meet that.
Was there
Did
a
you
lot
wanna add
of
on
tickets
something?
given?
And again, it's not only kids. You have adults that if they might see someone slaughtering an animal, I guarantee they're not going to eat the animal. I have a friend of mine who's 42 years old, and if he sees anything, it could be a chicken, a lamb, or a goat. If it gets slaughtered in front of him, he's not going to eat that the meat.
Yeah.
So it's not only kids, and that's why. And again, come with a plan on the way you're going to do it, the way you're going to perform it. So it's either, to me personally, I don't think it should be done in the backyard at all.
Yeah.
If you
Or
want
the
to do
front
it,
yard.
or the front yard.
Oh.
Don't
So
do it in
you
the
have to
front
come
yard.
to a compromise. It's we have to. It has to be clear where's it going to be done, how's it going to get cleaned up, where the trash is going to be. Where are you going to throw the trash?
That's true.
Don't forget now, if you throw the tissue or the skin, whatever it is from this animal, to the trash, and let's say you throw on Monday, then the pickup's on Thursday.
The
Guess
smell.
how, the smell of it, and that's why we're willing, like we said from day one, come with the plan. We will compromise, and we're willing to pass it.
And it's good that you guys are, because my next question talks about like how can people, address issues the right way? Because it's not just, I don't think sending you a text message about a big issue is the best way of doing it, and that's kind of why it's important to talk about what you're
Spreading
saying.
rumors or
question.
posting or breaking
Or
the,
Facebook.
or breaking the community or separating the community. They don't realize like as a whole you're able to do more than starting to like break apart and build these little cults of people that don't like what you're doing.
Coalitions or
Yeah.
so and like again I said in the beginning, to our Hamtramck residents, feel free to reach us out in anything that goes around the city.
Email is king.
It's the best.
If you have access to internet and the ability to write in any language that can be Google translated, please email us, because that is the best way. Because if you email me something and it's not something I can address, I can send it over to Max, and Max, the city manager, right? And so I can send it to the city manager. The city manager can distribute it to the employee that can handle that issue, right? Instead of having to do 3 or 4 phone calls to get to that end, we can do it all just by forwarding a single email. And then we still have record of that request, so that if someone contacts me about, I'll use a crosswalk on Edwin Street. If people want a crosswalk on Edwin Street, then they can contact me. If they contact me again, they contact me again. I remember they contacted me exactly 3 times. I know what dates they contacted me, and I can use that type of information a lot differently than I can use a call log that it tracks a week or so, right? And so like those type of things, email is king. And if you can't, then sure, text us, stop us on the street, those type of things. But if they're the big issues, email is 100% the best.
Yeah.
Or at a council meeting.
There you go.
So I guess, okay. So how do you guys broadcast these answers or resolutions to the city? Is it like
Just in council meetings, or
Just
Council
meetings?
meetings,
Whoever
yeah.
comes up to the meeting.
No, I think it's council meeting.
So-
Also, we have a newsletter that goes out with the water department bill. That's where they send the message when something is new happening in the city of Hamtramck, especially when a ordinance is being amended or no ordinance is happening. And also, we do use Facebook.
Yeah.
City has a Facebook page that we kind of share, and then we try to share in every group, WhatsApp, Facebook,
So-
anywhere we're able to send that message so people know what's going on.
If you wanted to keep track of things like the ordinances, resolutions, and stuff, you can access all of that. It's always posted the Friday before a meeting. So there's like 5 days to review things. And then, so you can go to board docs. There's usually a link on the Hamtramck Facebook page, but you can also just like Google Hamtramck board docs and it'll pull up. You'll see our upcoming meeting. You'll see all of the resolutions, ordinances, the whole agenda with all of the attachments that are necessary. So like if there's a house, like you mentioned the lot sales earlier, so someone wants to buy one of the empty lots to build a house, you can see the designs, you can see all of that kind of stuff.
wow.
And just, you know, that way if you have questions or something like that, you can either email us or you can come into the council meeting and make public comment. You get 3 minutes at the beginning, 3 minutes at the beginning, 2 minutes at the end. That's public comment. For ordinances, we have a first reading, and then a month later, there's a second reading. At the second reading, there's also a public hearing. The public hearing is unlimited time. Talk to us as much as you want about that ordinance, right? And so you can also email in public comment by emailing the clerk by 4 p.m. the day of each meeting. She will read those aloud into the record at the meeting. And then, as always, you can email us.
Thank you.
very informative session right here, and I appreciate it. And I got a quick question. So about feeding animals, I thought this was something that was just allowed to happen. There's actually rules behind it, correct?
Yeah.
So you want to maybe touch on that quickly, or anybody want to touch on it? So like, just so people know, because again, I thought you could just
So
feed
my
animals.
mom always feeds the bird.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we can send you the ordinance if you want.
She doesn't live in Hamtramck no more.
So we can send you the ordinance if you
Can't
want.
take care of her.
I think all the old, our mothers,
Yeah.
if you have extra food, usually they
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
so I
say it's
didn't
haram
look-
to throw it. Let's let the birds or the cats.
I know. So most cats do not eat human food. Let's just put that out there. Most
Okay.
cats do not eat human food. So you're putting it out there. You're feeding the rats, not the cats. So that is why we wanted to make sure that we were putting up those posts around this as well, because like what he was saying earlier is people would put food out in the back and it might be in front of the neighbors or it might be not, and the wrong people are getting the tickets, but there's more rats, there's all of this stuff because it's not feeding the cats. So if you want to feed birds, you can feed birds, but it has to be 4 feet off the ground. So like you can do out of a bird feeder, something like that, 4 feet off the ground. All of the other animals, so mostly the cats, specifically the cats in this ordinance, are going to be, you can put food out if you're watching it, basically. So if you're keeping your eyes on it in a maximum of 2 hours. So after 2 hours, it all has to be cleaned up and put away. And that way,
I think feeding the birds, not the leftover,
Yeah.
not from the
like
house.
seeds,
Their
right.
seeds or stuff like that. So
in the
let's
bird
make that
feeders,
clear.
Yeah, good.
And that's even
only-
in
it's a
someone's
lot.
backyard.
Correct. That is on all property in Hamtramck. And then, so if you want to feed cats like on the ground, you can do it in the alley. You can do it whatever, but it has to be cleaned up after that second hour. In the I think in the alley specifically, you have to be there the whole time, right? Is that how we
I
wrote
think
it?
Anywhere, you have to be there.
We'll have to look
until-
at the specific wording, but basically it's a 2 hour maximum that the food can be out, and then if it's in the public spaces, then you have to be watching it.
I think if it's in the alley, if I'm not mistaken, that you could come back and
Right.
clean after yourself.
Sorry, this is a random question. But like, are people allowed to have like chickens and goats in their backyard?
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
There's been like 3 chickens that.
They've been roaming
I
6 mile.
had a bunch of chickens in my backyard last summer. They were not my chickens. They showed up one day, and I
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, look, there's chickens." I found their owners. It was
Only
okay.
in
but-
Hamtramck.
Well,
Yeah,
it's in Detroit.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of
It's that
cities.
area.
Yeah, just
Southeast Michigan. We got the random animals.
Yeah. It's funny.
Possums.
Pheasants.
Well, listen,
Possums
Hamtramck
are
is a
so
diverse
scary.
city.
it is.
Even with our animals. Even with our animals. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
We like to be
We have the
diverse.
bunnies too that get out.
Yeah.
Oh
Now.
man, we have
Yeah.
lots of bunnies too.
For sure.
Now going back with the possums and rats and these come by, individuals throw
Leaving
these
them
food. You know, if less food being in the alleys, less food being in the streets, you're not gonna have these possums, and these rats all over the city. So
Although possums
we
do
try-
help with mosquitoes
Really?
and I
and
heard,
ticks.
and I heard even
my
garden too.
Oh.
They eat them.
And I heard even garden, they kind of eat those.
Yeah, they eat the. That's what.
insects,
So
that kind of.
possums actually they're really ugly and they have a really bad reputation, but they actually help with pest control a lot, to the point that we actually took them out of the description as a vermin. So they were originally in the old ordinance, they were classified as vermin, and we actually unclassified them as vermin for the city of Hamtramck, because even if we don't necessarily want them in our yards, they're good to have in the city for a lot of reasons.
And what do you mean by vermin? Like, want to explain to people like
Yeah, vermin are like the animals you don't want. It's the rats, it's the mice, it's the
Okay.
raccoons, right? So those type of animals that we're trying to prevent making their home in Hamtramck.
so if you see that, are you allowed to do anything to them, or you gotta leave them alone? The rats, the vermin animals.
They can be trapped and relocated or something like that. People do use poison and stuff. I usually
Lord.
try to tell people not to use poison, because if you use poison in your backyard, maybe someone's cat or dog, it might get tracked over by a squirrel. It might, like, a mouse might eat it. And this actually happens a lot in Ferndale. You see a lot of people complaining about that. A mouse or something will eat poison, and then a dog will bite it, or a cat will bite it, or something like that, and then they get secondary poisoning. So you have pets dying, you have children dying. I know we don't all watch our kids very often, so maybe they're
Yeah.
eating poison because a squirrel tracked it over from a neighbor's yard and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
don't use poison, but that's not a rule. That's my rule. That's not a city rule.
Yeah.
But we do recommend, traps.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the best idea especially if you're gonna leave them outside or in the backyard where you got
So we
kids.
do also have a contract with the Michigan Humane Society for like stray dogs and stuff like that. So if you do have issues with that, you can call either the Humane Society directly, or you can call the Hamtramck Police Department. The Hamtramck Police Department receives calls on strays.
I got a question, and like I said, I'm gonna read off the questions because I promised people I was going to read off the questions. So would you be opposed to the Jewish people slaughtering chicken in Hamtramck during their Yom Kippur celebration?
Exactly the same regulations that we're applying to all residents of Hamtramck.
I just wanted to read it off, and then another person said I have to go. I want to say thank you to Oz Media, council members, and everyone in attendance. A very informative podcast. We just share, like, subscribe. That's what it's all about. That's what we enjoy. Or that's what we want, and we enjoy these conversations, we really do, and that's why we're here. That's why we're here, So we appreciate that. Believe it or not, we are winding down to our last couple questions. My question to the last question is: any other updates? Anything else before City of Hamtramck? Before we get some advice from you guys, some encouraging words.
I mean, way off in the future, not that long, I'm hoping in less than a year, is one of the things that Hamtramck has but is never activated is a youth council. And so I'm hoping to be able to work with some of the teachers at different schools around Hamtramck. I've already talked to a few to figure out how we can do some focus groups with youth, so we can design it so that it fits exactly what the youth want. Because the youth council isn't about me, it's not about any of the other adults in the city, it's about what the youth want and what the youth want to be able to do with it. So some of those conversations will be coming in the future. So if you have anyone who's super interested in that, I would love to hear from them.
And that's actually a great idea,
Yeah.
because I think that the youth will have a lot to say, and including them. I feel like they kind of get pushed to the side with everything that's going on. With all the issues that's happening and stuff. I think we forget, we're doing this for them.
Correct.
So
We are the future.
yeah, for sure. Well,
And also I want to add to my colleague that I encourage you youth to start coming to council meetings. They're the second and the fourth week of each month. Swing by, come to city council, see, how it rolls, how it works. Maybe they have any concerns, they can, bring that up to us
And
as
that-
mayor and council.
If there are any youth that want to make public comment and stuff like that, there are residents who will help them write those comments. I know multiple residents who are willing to help youth make sure that they're being clear in their asks and asking for things that can actually be implemented. So that's another thing.
Well, this is the time where we kind of get some advice from you all or nice encouraging words. So my question to you, let you go start off with this one, Khalil, is, can you give advice to someone, that is looking to be a leader in their city? Because you both are leaders, by the way. So can you maybe give advice to someone? I know you kind of touched on it a little bit right now about talking about the youth and how you kind of encourage them to come out. So what advice would you tell maybe a youth, maybe somebody that's an adult, but is afraid to take that next step to be a leader in the city? What advice would you give them?
One thing, try to be involved in your community. Become a leader. You got to be involved with your community. It doesn't matter which community that you do. Participate in a lot of organizations, either cleanups, anything that has to deal in that city. I know a person that was trying to run a while back for a city council, but no one knows you. So by being active, participating, showing people that you do volunteer in the city of Hamtramck, that shows you that it shows you, and also you build yourself becoming a leader. And multitask with different organizations, different individuals of programs that happens in the city, and you can become, a leader, and that you can push yourself to one day take my seat and become a city council. And we are trying to push the youth. It's not like, it's enough that we have our elders that ran the city. Now we're running the city as youngers, and now we want more of our youth. It's not hard to become a city council, but you got to show your support, volunteering in the community, or any center that's in the city of Hamtramck or anywhere else.
I love it. How about you, Councilwoman Amanda?
I mean, I have two things. The one short one is be way better at self-care than I am. Have those boundaries, put them up, and do not sway from them. Put those fences up. Know when you're going to sleep. Know what time you need to preserve to watch TV or read books or whatever. Make sure that you're organizing your time so that what you're doing is sustainable, right? Because we all go through burnout, right? And so burnout is not fun. So do what you can to avoid that, because you're not effective if you're in bed.
There you go.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. This one.
Sorry. Is similar to what Khalil was saying, and it's a lot, is just show up and be consistent. Because there's one thing I was taught when I was really young is if you have to say you are, then you aren't. Right? So if I have to tell someone I'm Muslim, then I'm not living a Muslim life, right? If I'm telling someone I'm a leader, I'm not a leader. You don't have to convince people that you're a leader. It's not about the title you have. It's not about the education you have. It's about what you do, and that people see you doing it and understand you're doing it for the right reason.
If you have to say you are, you are.
Ramsey,
Please,
I know
round of applause.
Ramsey's chilling right now, but can we get a round of applause, my man Rambo? Shout out to my man Rambo.
I like that. That was great.
I like the whole show, to be honest with you. It was very informative, very, kind of got to the point, but it was good, conversation, good stories. I do want to say, first of all, again, this was season 2, episode 12 of the Table Talk podcast. We have both council people in the building today. We have Khalil Refai and we have Amanda Jaczkowski from Hamtramck City Council. Just want to let you know you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Oz Media. You can like this show specifically, share it. Also, we are on Facebook and Instagram under Motivate Me 313. You can listen to the show later on Apple and Spotify podcasts under Oz Media. You can follow us also on TikTok. And then future reference, if you want to call in, the number is 313-306-1750. You ever want to join the discussion as well, we'll get you on a phone call as well. Final words, final comments. Sisters, I'll start off with y'all. I don't know if you have any questions for the panel here today. Any comments?
We moved out from Hamtramck. Well, I moved out a couple months ago, and I probably visited twice. And every single time I went, I feel like, you know what they say, when you leave something, that's when you kind of have more appreciation. And every time I do come back, I notice little things oh, there's this, oh, there's this, oh, there's this, and I get so excited and so happy for the residents there now. And then, obviously when I was there before, it's kind of where's the change? I don't see no difference. I don't see anything, but I'm sure you guys are doing an amazing job, and just keep it up.
How about you, Abed?
No, I definitely see a brighter future for Hamtramck, especially because the council is a lot younger as well. So yeah, I'm excited to see what you guys have in store.
Any final comments from any final words?
Well, just thank you for having us here today. It's great to be able to have a more free-flowing conversation, because a lot of times the council meetings can feel really restrictive, to make sure that people know exactly what thoughts are in our head leading up to conversations that happen during those meetings.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. And shout out to our sponsors. I forgot to say that one last time. Qahwa House, Hanley International Academy, BC Adhesives, and the Balkan House. We appreciate them. We appreciate you for being here today. Seriously, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for, coming on to the show and be willing to share this kind of information, which is very important. And I'm sure this won't be the last time. Inshallah, we'll get you guys on for maybe something more conversation in the community that needs to be discussed. Conversations that we need to talk about. This was more of like an informative show that, next time we can get like a conversation that, kind of taboo topics or topics people don't want to talk about, but maybe we can address them.
All right.
All right, you can do that. That's what we like.
Sounds like a dare to me.
Yeah. For sure. So
Challenge,
thank you.
no.
Thank you so much for those that watched. We had a decent audience turning in, so we appreciate it. And then if you share this, obviously watch it later. Hope you enjoy it. I hope you learned something from the show, because I definitely did. So we'll see you all next week. That's when we'll be posting the show with Melanie from Hot Hijab. So she's a well-known hijab person, so we had her on the show. I don't know how we made that happen, but alhamdulillah we did. So shout out to that, and we're looking forward to posting that next week. Hope you guys all enjoy the